All right, we're rolling. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies. My name's Austyn and Lach, and this is Brandon LaChapelle. The Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies. This is our inaugural episode on Halloween. So if we might have some trick-or-treaters, so I apologize for any disruptions ahead of time. For this show, we will be discussing on a week-to-week basis some various happenings throughout the NFL in terms of games and the fantasy football implications of that, and hope to give you a little bit of fantasy football advice in the process and maybe a couple of laughs with that. So let's just get right into it, I guess. Brandon LaChapelle. Thursday night, we saw the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers go head-to-head there. And Teddy Bridgewater fell short in leading a comeback drive, the 25-17 final for the now 2-6 Falcons, I think. Yeah. Already losing credibility here.
Yes, 2-6.
So we had a big injury. Calvin Ridley, the number one wide receiver, had exited the game early. Now he is considered day-to-day. That led for a Julio Jones and Russell Gage to get the majority of looks there. So I guess what was your take from that game in terms of fantasy production?
It was a pretty rough week for both sides of the ball, really. Both quarterbacks. Had Matt Ryan not saved his day with a rushing touchdown, he would have had a pretty rough day. Teddy Bridgewater was projected to have a big day, and between the weather and that big hit that he took, the dirty hit that he took, he ended up having a really, really disappointing day, especially in that matchup. As for the receivers, Curtis Samuel just went off, doing a little bit of everything. Some running game, some receiving work, 2 touchdowns. So for the few of you who would have started him, Steve, in my league, I know, congrats on the easy 20 points. Julio had 20 points as well in PPR. I have a PPR league. Ozzy doesn't. He's in standard scoring. So if we have any differences there, that's why.
Important distinction.
Yeah. As for the tight ends, like Hayden Hurst had a pretty good game. Panthers, I don't even know. Ian Thomas is doing little to nothing on a week-to-week basis.
Is that their tight end?
And that tells you all you need to know about the Panthers tight end situation. And then Gurley saved his day. If you watched that game, you were probably pissed off for at least the first half. He wasn't even out there for a lot of snaps. Brian Hill saw like 11 touches or something in the run game. So I don't know if there's an injury there. Have you heard anything on Gurley?
I haven't, but they took him out for like many series in a row. Right. And the announcers, I remember, kept commenting on it.
Yeah.
And so they're like, Gurley's out for a second and a third series. So you got to imagine there's something lingering there. I wonder if it's that knee injury or that knee arthritis or whatever is bugging him. But yeah, that would be, I guess, what say you about Todd Gurley moving forward?
Basically, my opinion on him all year has been that he's not really someone you want to rely on. He's been super touchdown dependent. He started the year off pretty slow, and if not for his like 8 touchdowns through 8 games, he would be having a very, very lackluster season.
All right. What? But, don't worry, it's just the ghost that's in this room. Wow.
Yeah, I would say he's coming off like 2 or 3 straight weeks prior to this one of being the RB4. I would say if you can trade him, try to capitalize on that value, especially if they're going to start going away from him, as indicated by this past game. Yeah.
RB4
on the like overall. On each week, he was the RB4.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, not first team.
I was like, whoa. So I guess there you have it. There's the quick recap of Thursday Night Football. Now, as it pertains to fantasy football for our leagues, we figure because we'll be talking a lot about our teams on a week-to-week basis, we should probably let you know who we have, and then moving forward, we can just kind of talk about our teams freely from there. Lash, I'll let you go first. You've got quite a star-studded team in your dynasty league. Dynasty PPR. This guy over here has a couple of big names, so I'm excited for you to share.
Yeah, so we just started this league up this year. I'll just go through my starting lineup. I've got Josh Allen at quarterback. Been disappointing lately, but hopefully he turns it back around. And then I've got Kamara. I've got Mixon, but without him this week, I've got Gio Bernard starting. And then I've managed to trade for Julio. I've got Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, Darrell Henderson, and then we play with kicker and defense. So I've got Bucker and the Rams right now. And then on my bench, I've got McKinnon, JD McKissick for the football team, Alex Madison of the Minnesota Vikings, Jay Crowder, that's basketball, Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis, Marquise Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault. And then we've got 3 IR spots that I have filled with Mixon, Saquon Barkley, and Tevin Coleman.
Holy crap.
A couple of pretty big trades have already gone through. So
hopefully you were taking notes. That's a lot of names to remember. But yeah, a couple big ones there. Barkley and
Julio.
And
Kamara.
Julio and Kamara.
Yeah, I've traded for both Barkley and Julio so far this year.
And those are obviously, you're set at running back. How many players on your starting lineup? That seemed like a lot.
Our starting is just regular. It's QB, 2 RBs, 2 WRs, a flex, and then kicker defense.
Oh, okay.
But our bench, we have like an 8-player bench plus 3 IR spots right now.
Gotcha. Okay. So Gio Bernard has saved you as a Joe Mixon holder.
Last week he did.
I'll get to him in a little bit, but I also picked him up off of waivers before anybody else could snatch him up when Joe Mixon was out, and reaped a little bit of benefits from that. So dynasty PPR for Lash, and for me, I'm just a good old plain Jane standard kind of guy.
Standard redraft.
Standard redraft, yeah. And so I had to stream a quarterback. So my starting quarterback this week is Baker Mayfield, but normally it's QB1 Kyler Murray. So I've been loving that. Jonathan Taylor, I made a trade for. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back. AJ Brown just traded for. Get to that one. Henry Ruggs, Dallas Goedert, who just got activated off IR. Kenny Golladay, Steven Gostkowski, and the Patriots. Ooh, the Patriots defense is not what it used to be.
Neither is Steven Gostkowski.
No, he's not.
As a Titans fan, that one hurts.
Yes. And then we got Tevin Coleman, just also activated off IR. DeAndre Swift, Amari Cooper, Rashard Higgins, and Robert Tonyan, the tight end out of Green Bay. So I had a pretty rough week at wide receiver. As I mentioned, I got Kenny Golladay and AJ Brown now, but last week I had Amari Cooper and OBJ starting.
Oof.
It was a rough week. I'm sitting at 2-5. I guess, Lash, what's your record first, and then I'll get into my rant.
I'm at 5-2 right now. I'm at the top of my league.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm at the bottom. I'm in second last in my league, so out of a playoff spot. I was desperate after OBJ went out too. Tried making a trade to get rid of him last week. I guess intuitively, I just knew that this would happen. And so I ended up making a couple sneaky trades and got Kenny Golladay for Gio Bernard, as I mentioned, and DJ Chark, who was kind of underwhelming the last couple of weeks, to say the least, after being a touchdown machine to start off the year, it seemed.
1 for 7 receptions last week. Solid outing.
Yep. And then I also ended up getting AJ Brown for Mike Williams from the Chargers and Myles Gaskin, the RB1 in Miami. So I was very thankful to replenish the wide receiver depth. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been holding it down, I guess, even with Bell after 1 week of Bell being in the lineup. So hopefully last week is an indication that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still going to be RB1 there. I really think so. I don't know.
He'll be RB1. It'll probably be closer to a timeshare, like a split, maybe 60-40 for him. It sucks that Lev Bell will see a lot of the receiving work and probably a lot of the goal line touches. But other than that, he's still an RB2 with the RB1 upside. So
and that's kind of what I figure as well. Last week he kind of he was relied on. I think it was last week that they played the Bills. Was it last week, or am I thinking of the week before?
Yeah, that was last week because that was Bell's first week, but he was inactive, right? And they just ran they had a historic running day.
They played the Broncos last week.
Oh, right.
Right. He had 161 yards 2 weeks ago, and that's when I thought, this guy's got it. And that was the week that Bell was inactive. So, played against the Broncos last week, got 12 points. So I was pretty happy there, and they play the Jets this week. So I'm still hoping that they don't get too fancy and give Bell all the touches for his former team. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here.
There should be plenty of room for both of them. The over under on that game is 19.5 points in favor of the Chiefs. I imagine they'll be running the ball a lot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that's ideal.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan Taylor's been RB1 in Indy for getting pretty good points. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with my running back depth. Now it's just those receivers. Hopefully AJ Brown and Kenny Golladay can hold out for me, because Amari Cooper was amazing when Dak was healthy. And now it's been all downhill. I'm just freaking, it's so bad.
He was on pace for 200 receptions or targets or something stupid like that.
And then now he's got Ben DiNucci thrown to him. And if you listen to the Third and Wrong podcast, I built up Ben DiNucci quite highly, and then just only to tear him down. So hopefully he proves me wrong there. But Lash, let's get into, I guess now everybody knows our teams and our records, and let's get into the hype train. Let's all aboard. Are we hopping on the hype train, or are we hopping off the hype train for a couple of players this week? We've got Tua Tagovailoa making his first career start with the Miami Dolphins. Are you hopping on, or are you off?
I am all the way off, especially, for this game anyways. Going forward, I may board the hype train, so to speak. But for this game, I think Aaron Donald is just going to absolutely obliterate him. I am very happy to have the Rams defense right now for this week. So yeah, I'm off for now. Can be convinced later.
Fair play.
How do you feel about him?
Yeah, the Rams have been pretty feisty too. Aaron Donald's still just wrecking.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I was so low on the Rams going into this season. I had them at 8-8 or 7-9 or something like that. And their defense is playing much better than I expected. That was, right. So that really helps. And with a rookie quarterback, it's so tough to say, because Tua, coming from Alabama, he played with a really good coach in Nick Saban, and I maybe give that a little bit too much stock when I think about how these rookie quarterbacks come into the NFL. The transition doesn't seem to be as big, especially coming from a program like Alabama, where there's just pros coming out left and right. And then you've got a good coach, Brian Flores, who is he going to put his team in a position to lose? Is he going to put Tua in after the bye with the expectation that there's going to be hiccups? Because Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing so good.
Right. Yeah.
I'm so torn on, is Tua going to be good? Is he going to be bad? But I'm erring on the side of caution here, and I'm taking the coward's way out. I'm going to hop off the hype train for now.
I also took the coward's way out.
That's open to your own interpretation. I'm going to leave it at that. I am hopping off. And I'm gonna say that Tua is gonna struggle this week. I had a waiver on Tua, and then I deleted it because I was like, it's like history does not bode well for quarterbacks,
No.
for rookie quarterbacks. So, but it would be interesting because Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing so good. The Dolphins are in a position to make a playoff push.
Right.
Are you really going to sacrifice that for your rookie quarterback? I see both sides. I see the yes and the no for it. And if worst case scenario, you got the Texans pick, who looks like it's going to be very high in the first round.
Right.
So you've got, like, if you got 8 weeks to see if Tua can really handle the NFL, that might not be enough time for a lot of people. But if they do want to go for Trevor Lawrence, if they have like that kind of pick,
I don't think it's going to be that high of a pick.
The Texans?
No.
Oh, really?
Not
I
since
mean, as of right now, it's
as of right now, but they seem to look better since Bob is out.
Fair play. Are they still 1-6, or did they get their second win? I forget. Would be nice to check the standings before this podcast or the show. Because
just remember, this is on the Amateur Agency Network.
Exactly.
We are amateurs.
Yes, and we're a couple of dummies. All right, moving on to the next hype train. We've got Tevin Coleman coming back. He's activated off IR.
Just today, yeah.
Just today. The 49ers running game, it just churns. It just keeps going. You can put Jermichael Hasty in there and it'll still work against the freaking Patriots. Okay, so Tevin Coleman going up against a Seattle front that just added Carlos Dunlap, who is not going to be playing in this game.
Right.
But nonetheless, they've done quite well against the run, I think. Not so much against the pass, though they're worst in the passing game. So Tevin Coleman, are you hopping on the hype train for Tevin or not?
Well, as I said, I have him on my roster. I just picked him up this past week, but I'm not hopping on in terms of like having him as a must start play this week for fantasy. I also have Jerick McKinnon, who I've been ungodly high on all season for who knows what reason, but he's I'm fully on board that train and it's not going anywhere. I just have a bit of hesitation with Tevin Coleman because Jermichael Hasty and McKinnon are there and should see work. Like, it should probably be a 3-way split, I would think, but you never know with Shanahan. They didn't think they were even going to have Jeff Wilson last week, and he went for 100 plus and 3 touchdowns. Like, yep. I don't know.
That's
it's impossible.
Patriots.
It's so hard to predict what they're going to do with their running backs. I would buy in that I would pick him up going forward with Mostert on IR. But I would just hold him on your bench if you have the space. I wouldn't start him this week.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think I'm going to hop off the hype train for this week. I'm not sure if there was a lot of hype necessarily for him coming back, but as it pertains to this week, I think it was just too early. And plus, I think that they've got 3 guys that can manage the workload. Jerick McKinnon, right. They were kind of on keeping him on a snap count just because they utilized him so well for weeks when Coleman, Mostert, and Wilson were out. And or at least like a mixed bag. It was just McKinnon was kind of carrying the load. So I think that they feel comfortable with who they have and basically will limit the snaps for Coleman as well. But sure, going forward, he definitely is their guy. Like, Shanahan coached with him in Atlanta, and so he's obviously very high on him. So I'm hopping off, but I guess moving on from the hype train, we've got some new quarterbacks that we got to discuss. Ben DiNucci, as I mentioned earlier, making his first career start with the Cowboys in Sunday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles, a nice divisional matchup for, I guess this wouldn't be for first place if Mr. DiNucci can make a nice strong showing, but it certainly would put the Cowboys in the discussion. I mean, it's just a terrible division. Who
It's
knows? Maybe a guy named Ben
god-awful.
DiNucci can come in and rack it up. But the Eagles are getting healthy, and it doesn't sound like Andy Dalton's going to be back for this game. So what's your scouting report on Ben DiNucci?
I don't know who this guy is. I saw him throw like 2 passes last week, and that's all I know. My scouting report is pick up the Eagles defense, pick up whatever Eagles running backs are available, and avoid every Cowboy receiver. Even like obviously you're starting Zeke, but you're probably not that happy about it because it should like everything should flow through him, but the other team knows that too. And it really showed last week where he got like 6 points or something.
Yeah.
So in redraft, maybe you look to trade him if you can sell high, like sell that name value, pick up. I don't know who you would pick up for a guy like Zeke, but if you have the opportunity to get more production with a lesser name, I would do that for sure.
That's big. I know our buddy Zach, my co-host on Third and Wrong, fleeced one of our friends for Zeke earlier on in the year. So it's nice to see that Zeke's value is going down.
Hopefully staying down.
And hopefully stays down. Zach's running backs, he's got CMC, Christian McCaffrey on the bench too, to go along with James Robinson in Jacksonville. And
I know he has Godwin at receiver.
And somebody else. And he just grabbed Michael Thomas from somebody as well. So he's got...
Without giving up any of those guys.
Yeah. We're going to pull it up because we're a couple of amateurs. And he's got David Montgomery to go along with James Robinson and Christian McCaffrey and Zeke, obviously. So hopefully Zeke's value stays quite low.
What the hell? What did he give up in any of these trades that he still has Montgomery in these guys? That's crazy.
Well, it was Jonnu Smith and Leonard Fournette for Zeke. So that was good. Not ideal for the rest of us in our league, but
that sounds like a wrap on the league, to be honest.
I think he had to have paid somebody under the table for that one. But anyways,
moving on.
Ben DiNucci. My thoughts are, I think that the Eagles win this 30-6. I said that on the Third and Wrong podcast, and I'm just going to stand by that. I don't think Ben DiNucci is going to be doing anything. If you've got Amari Cooper like I do, bench him. I don't think he's yes, he's good. He's $100 million wide receiver, but
no O-line. Third string quarterback. It's not, the range of outcomes is much closer to 0 points than the 30 that you can not expect, but want out of him. You're definitely getting closer to 0.
Yeah. So if you got any other options, please don't start Amari for the benefit of your own team. We're looking out for you here. We're a couple dummies looking after our dummies.
I don't know how the audience feels about being called dummies, but you clicked on the video, so
yeah, here you are. You made it this far. We're almost done. All right. Also, we got another quarterback who I've never heard of, Jake Luton. Might be starting for the Jags as Gardner Minshew, and Minshew Mania has a thumb fracture, I believe.
Yeah, several torn ligaments and fractures or something along those lines.
Not ideal. So what are we doing with Jake Luton? What's the Lash scouting report there?
We're leaving him on the waiver wire because I have never heard of this guy until 2 days ago either. I didn't even know he was their third string. I thought what is it, Mike Glennon who's there? Who's their actual backup? All right, the dummies are back at it. Yeah, I didn't think that a 6th round rookie would be starting. I didn't think a 7th round rookie would be starting. So leave them on the waiver wire. They're not worth your time.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, if you're a Jags fan, you hope that Jake Luton can maybe give you some juice like Gardner did last year when he had to step in for Nick Foles. But I mean, just if you got DJ Chark and all those guys, probably again, just just avoid that
Same
matchup
thing.
altogether. Because it's an unproven product. It's a big swing. And I mean, for me at 2-5, I can't afford to take those big swings. If you're sitting at the top of your league and in a playoff spot, all but certain for you, then maybe go ahead and start DJ Chark or LaVisca Chenault or whoever they've got it.
I think they're on bye this week. We're talking about them, but they're on bye.
Oh, nice. There we go.
I think that's why Chenault's at the bottom of my bench. Yeah, bye. So this is for like going forward.
Exactly.
Don't waste your waiver claims on Jake Lutton.
Yeah, definitely not. So there we go. I'm a big dummy for that. I wish I had video editing skills. Could we just a dummy alert?
I wasn't going to address it, but I'm glad that we did get to bring it up.
Yeah, exactly. So don't start anybody on bye. That's rule number one. Rule number one, don't start anybody who's not going to get you any points for certain.
Yeah.
That's what we've got going on here. So we've got our next segment is Flyer of the Week, where we will be talking, about basically a guy that you take a flyer on in the week, somebody that you hope will put up big numbers, or that we foresee to put up big numbers, and maybe replace that Amari Cooper that you've got to put in. Lash, do you have a flyer for this week? I know it's we're kind of ill prepared for this episode, as I have made multiple blunders.
No, I don't know how much they're flyers, but like anyone who's like top receiver went down with an injury, whether it's the Jets you don't want to start Jets, let's be honest. But like for me, Crowder's out, Godwin's out for the Bucks, OBJ for the Browns, Edelman for the Patriots. I don't know. You would have more insight as to if there's anyone you want to start from that receiving core.
They just put Edelman on IR today, actually. So I don't know. We've got Demir Bird, Isaiah Zuber, Gunnar Olszewski.
Probably no one worth it in fantasy. So
yeah, there's one more that I'm forgetting, but I mean that speaks for itself. I'm a Patriots fan. Like I'm a diehard, and I freaking can't remember who we've got on our team. It's not good. It's not pleasant.
So if you want to take a flyer on any of those guys, Scotty Miller for the Bucks in Godwin's stead, Higgins or Peoples-Jones possibly in OBJ's stead, Callaway or Traquan Smith for the Saints with Mike Thomas out again this week. But if I had to go with like a flyer of the week, I'm not excited about any of these options. Wayne Gallman for the Giants, maybe. He looked pretty good once Devontae Freeman went down at running back. If you want to take a shot on any of the Seahawks, if Carson misses.
DJ Dallas
is a popular name, but I don't have a scouting report on him, so I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and advise you start him, like pick him up, but don't start him.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one because Carlos Hyde is out, I think, for that game. Travis Homer might be in, but he had a leg contusion.
Good.
I think that means a cut. I don't know.
Bruise,
it's a big word.
Cut, something like that.
So there you go.
Also not medical doctors.
Exactly. Living up to the dummy name. My flyer of the week is Henry Ruggs. I think that he's such a cool prospect in the draft when we were covering the draft. He's going up against the Browns defense that has been really hit and miss in terms of the passing attack or defending the passing attack. And Henry Ruggs is a guy that can take the top off any defense. So Nelson Aguilar has surprisingly been a deep threat for the Raiders, but he's been Derek Carr's go-to guy. So I think Henry Ruggs he is not going to get a lot of targets, but he's a guy that can get lots of yards in those chunk plays. The last couple of weeks, he's only got 3 targets, 3 catches type deal, but he's a guy that just, like I said, he can take the top off a defense. And against the Browns, where they're going to have to defend Darren Waller, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Renfrow, who's done quite well for himself as a deep threat in that offense as well.
Right.
I think that's I'm living and dying on this hill because I've got Henry Ruggs starting
Oh
and
boy.
apparently the weather's going to be trash, so I might have to
Oh.
call an audible just
Extra
based
not
on
good.
based on the weather. But I didn't want to make a fantasy decision based on weather forecasts. I'm going to be checking in on that game Sunday before the pregame.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. A guy like Ruggs, I would only plug in if you look at your matchup and you know that you're going to need a boost. Because just like how boom or bust he is, same with Marquise Brown. I sit him so much, despite taking him in like with a pretty high draft pick. He's on my bench all the time because like you just can't rely on him. Like it's either 0 points or 20 points kind of deal. So it sounds like you're in a situation that you might need to take the top off someone though.
I do need at 2 and 5. I really just got to swing for the fences and just hope that I can start actually hitting some home runs. I got, I mean, what can I say? I got Amari Cooper on my bench with Ben DiNucci throwing him the football.
Yeah,
so
I'd start Ruggs over Cooper.
We're kind of hooped. Rashard Higgins, I just picked up. He seems to be a real red zone target for Baker at times, and especially with OBJ out. I was torn on that one. I trust Derek Carr more, which is weird because I picked up Baker Mayfield and as my streamer this week, but yeah, I just trust Henry Ruggs. I just love that guy.
I was just thinking about that too, actually, with you starting Baker. I think that's a pretty good streamer or flyer, as it were, for QB too, without OBJ. He seems to have like more freedom, I guess. He doesn't have to force OBJ the ball, and he's not like worried about that. He's just free to throw to whoever he wants, and I feel like that's going to be beneficial for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty big.
Yeah, he seems to play looser when he's
yeah,
absolutely. All right, so that's the flyer of the week. So we've got Henry Ruggs, and Lash is Wayne Gallman. For the Giants.
Yeah.
And oops, I don't know what I'm doing. Wayne Gallman for the Giants. Devontae Freeman. How long is he out, do you think?
I don't know if he's even out.
Oh, fair enough. Well, Wayne Gallman.
Oh, I thought he was projected.
He did have an ankle injury. I saw.
Oh yeah, he's out. He's out.
Okay.
Ruled out for week 8.
Fair enough.
It doesn't say if he'll be out further than that.
All right, that leads us to our last segment for this show, this inaugural episode, with a couple of blunders. We've made it surprisingly smooth. Lash, this segment is just for you. And I don't know why I'm telling you like you didn't know this before. He did know about it before, and you will find out about it right now. It's called The Last Lash. And if you've ever played a particular game, you would know where this reference is from. So hopefully you played this game before. The Last Lash. Lash? What is the Last Lash?
The Last Lash is basically just like, I guess, my boldest take of the week. And we're just circling back to beat on these Cowboys. Just don't start any of them, honestly. Like, the defense is going to get torched because the offense is going to be so bad. That's just avoid Cowboys except for Zeke is the Last Lash.
Heck yeah. And even then, it sounds like Zeke's probably, his outlook is not ideal. So
Man, yeah.
Sweet. Well, I guess that concludes the inaugural episode of football or fantasy football for dummies by dummies. I can't even get it right. And we'll be better. If you've made it this far, the first one is always the worst. Just listen to me on the Third and Wrong podcast. That first one, that was horrendous. So if you've made it this far, hopefully we'll see you next Saturday for some fantasy football discussion. We'll get some takes on there. I just realized that I had made a social media post for you lovely people to give us your takes or questions, and I totally forgot about them. And nobody answered, so we're good to go.
On the agency account, Steve asked at least one.
Oh, did
Steve
he?
asked, is James White still startable for fantasy purposes?
There's nobody showing up.
Is that for yours or the agency?
Oh, we do have a couple. This just in. There are multiple. Holy heck. Okay, so not fantasy related, but Matt Stafford is the most underrated quarterback of all time. Thank you, Harnack. I have been loving Matt Stafford for multiple years, especially since I've had a podcast where I can actually preach it. I love Matt Stafford. I think that if he wasn't on the Detroit Lions, he would be a quarterback that we talk about in like the Tom Brady type of, not the GOAT, but I'm just talking about like, I should have listed multiple quarterbacks, but you know, like the Ben Roethlisbergers, the Drew Brees.
Just another greatest of all time?
Not all of them can be the greatest of all time. A top quarterback, like a top 5 quarterback for this decade, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I think that that's fair to say. If he wasn't on the Detroit Lions, where they're just a terrible, terrible team, I would be all up in, I think everybody would be all up in Matt Stafford and on that hype train. I don't think that's a far-fetched thing to say, but that's a what-if scenario and nobody's going to get along with it, but that's my take. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are. I clearly disagree, but...
He seems average. I only really pay attention from a fantasy perspective, and for the last few years, he's been meh, like a guy that is a streamer on a good matchup week, and you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole in a bad week, basically. So, yeah, that basically says it.
So Matt Stafford, not a fantasy darling, but you know,
a polarizing figure.
He's a polarizing guy. I think that, yeah, you're right. I think he's maybe not the most underrated of all time, but certainly underrated. Underappreciated for sure. He's been on, you look at the teams he's been on, like, come on, miss me with that. He has been on terrible teams. 3 of his years have been under Matt Patricia coach teams. So like that speaks for itself. Is James White a viable starter at running back anymore? This is from Steve. I don't think you touch any Patriots offensive skilled players like with a 10-foot pole. Until further notice, I don't think he's a viable starter at all. Just because this offense is inept. They don't know how to do anything right. And I mean, yeah, like that's my take on it. I just don't trust the Patriots players from a fantasy perspective. I have none, and that's going to remain that way because who am I going to throw Demir Bird in? No. Damian Harris is kind of polarizing in the sense that he runs so good. Like from a football standpoint, he looks like he could be a RB1 on our depth chart. But from a fantasy perspective, even then, I don't think that you touch any Patriots running backs. So that includes James White.
I feel bad saying it because I'm the one who traded James White in my Julio trade. But yeah, he's probably, until further notice, a guy you want to just keep on the bench. In our PPR league, he's good-ish. Not anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, because we do lots of running back dump offs.
Yeah, that's why you want to keep him only if you're in PPR, because he is the primary receiving back, although Rex Burkhead and whoever else has been taking some of those opportunities from him. So for now, he's probably not a starter until he shows something worth starting.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, and again, unless you're in a position where you've got a playoff spot pretty well secured,
I would start him.
And it depends on who you have at running back as well. But if he's one of your top guys that you're kind of like hinging on, maybe starting a sleeper or James White, I think James White falls into that sleeper category. It'd be fine to start him.
Based on matchups and bye weeks is the only time I would start him.
Yeah. Last question is from Rob Dog. Oh, a classic Rob Dog.
Good old Rob Dog.
Yeah. We've got, I got both Lockett and Metcalf. Who do I start, or do I start both? This is such a good problem to have.
True.
It's and you've got Russell Wilson throwing the ball, like a guy that he distributes. Last year, yes, Lockett had a heyday, but I think that it's totally possible that Lockett and Metcalf can have multiple catches to this game, especially. I think that they could possibly both go over 100 in this game because just Russell Wilson's going to have to dish. You don't have Chris Carson. You don't have Carlos Hyde. You're going to be trusting in DJ Dallas as their starting running back. You've got to throw the football and let Russ cook. Rob Dog, this week, I'm going to say it, I think you start both. And I think that that's a unique situation. I wouldn't be trusting this every week by any stretch, but I mean, you could. The stats might even say that you probably could get away with it, but I would just, I mean, out of principle, I just generally don't like starting two guys on the same team. But I think that you start both this week. It's going to be a really hard game to predict one way or the other to start which one over the other. But they're both very capable of performing really strongly, and against a tough divisional opponent, I think that the ball's going to be in Russ's hands enough times, and he's going to have to find the end zone a lot this game. So I say start both of them.
Yeah, I'm not going away from DK, and I'm not going away from a guy that just had 15, 203. So I would differ from Ozzy in that I would just start them every week. I mean, Tyler Lockett is WR3 in PPR, and DK is WR16. So like those are two top 24 receivers. I would just roll them out every single week and live with the results. They're elite talents, both of them. So
yeah, fair play. They're so different, but they're just so incredible, like in their own ways. It's just, and I don't know how much of it is Russell Wilson because he makes every receiver look good. So not to say that DK is not good in his own right, but just how like you got Doug Baldwin and then he looks like a really good wide receiver, and then Tyler Lockett comes out, and like Tyler Lockett looked like a bust for the first couple of years of his career, and then all of a sudden they sign him to an extension and he just freaking goes off. So it's nice to see that he's kind of come into his own. Now, I guess this is an off the cuff question that I have for you, Lash. Would you ever trade one of those two just to like differentiate? I like to spread out my players so that way they're on separate teams. Like I said, I'm a guy of principle.
I mean, I would. Like anyone's available for the right deal. So like, yeah, I would. But I don't know if I'm happy to do it because like.
No, I'm saying, would you actively shop one of them to get?
Oh yeah, and depending on need, like if you need a running back, either one of those guys could probably get you an RB1. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely look around for deals. Everyone's available, so hit me up for trades in my league.
There you have it. And same if you're in Fantasy, my league, my standard league, then please, I'm always open for business, and I need help.
His team shows it. I don't know if there's a single holdover from the draft.
Other than Kyler Murray, I'm pretty sure I've stuck with the same guys or different guys. I'm not. I'm trying to say the exact opposite of that. Kyler Murray's
Plenty
the
of
only
roster
guy.
turnover.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. All right. For Brandon LaChapelle, I am Austyn and Lach signing off for the Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies show.